Um, Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight for the public, sorry, let me mute myself. For the public information session for the Surfside Area Transportation Enhancements Project. With me tonight here in the room is Erica Mooney from Town Administration and Mike Burns, the town's Transportation Program Manager. Additionally, online, we have Chuck Larson from the Town Administration Project Management Office, and a couple of our consultants, Zach Wasmuth, project manager from GPI, who was the design engineer for the project, as well as Emily Schick from CDM Smith, who provided LSP and environmental consulting services for the project. Some of you might have attended, either in person or online, the meeting we held almost a year ago to the day, to be exact, when we reviewed the design phase and considerations for the improvements within the project area. At that time, we also presented our planned approach to get us to where we are today. So I'm certainly very excited to be here today to discuss the construction phase of this project. Tonight, we'll go through a presentation that we've prepared, and then afterwards, we'll open the floor for questions. I do ask that you please hold all of your questions to the end of the presentation. If you are in the room, please come up to the mic to ask your question. And if you're online, you can raise your virtual hand and Erica will let you in when the time comes. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Zach to run through the presentation. We're going to recap some of the slides that we covered last year, hopefully pretty quickly. And then we'll get into the more important details, which I'm sure you're all very interested in, which is pertaining to the actual construction phase of this project. So with that, I will share my screen. And Zach, when you're ready, take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, Drew. Yeah, so as Drew mentioned, I'm just going to go over a few slides in the beginning. If you're at the meeting that was almost a year ago that Drew mentioned, a lot of these will look familiar, but we'll just kind of walk you through some of the proposed conditions of the project. And then as Drew mentioned, we'll get into some of the details about the upcoming construction. So we can go to the next slide and just go over the limits here. Okay, so on your screen here, you see a map of the project limits. The project includes Lover's Lane from Boulevard to Old South Road, Orkawa Avenue from Lover's Lane to Monahans Road, and Monahans Road from Orkawa Ave up to Miller Lane. It comes to about 2.3 miles of reconstruction. It includes a side path for the entire limits of the project. On Lover's Lane, it's on the westerly side or left side of your screen, and on Orkawa and Monahans, it's on the southerly side or the bottom of the screen here, adjacent to the airport. A portion of the path on Lover's Lane, as you can see on the screen there, where it says South Pasture, will actually be within the state forest. So that's between Rugged Road and Old South Road, and it provides recreational uses there. Other improvements will include a closed storm water drainage system that'll help remedy some of the existing ponding and flooding issues that occur out in the project area. And the storm drain system will include multiple infiltration systems subsurface to improve the water quality and minimize maintenance. And they'll be all subsurface, so they won't be visible. Will also be some relocation of the existing utilities to coordinate with the project. We can go to the next slide. It'll show a couple of the cross sections here. So what you're looking at right now are the Lover's Lane cross sections. So this is heading northbound. So you see there, that's the typical section of Lover's Lane on the top there, from Boulevard up to Rugged Road. You have the shared use side path on the side for walking and biking on the westerly side, and that's a minimum of a 6-foot grass strip in between that and the roadway. It kind of varies a little bit. And then you have your roadway there, 2 10-foot travel lanes with the asphalt berm on either side. And then after Rugged Road, as I mentioned, the shared use path transitions into the state forest area. So you can see there, it's a little bit further to the left, same 10-foot shared use path, and then that roadway there. Again, this is full depth construction in the roadway, so it'll all be paved throughout those limits. The next slide shows the Orkawa and Monahans Road section. These are both basically the same. It's the same section for the roadway. You'll have a paved roadway with 10-foot travel lanes and an asphalt berm. You'll have a 5-foot grass buffer, and then you'll have that 10-foot shared use path in asphalt on the southerly side of the roadway there. Um, so jumping into some of the design elements, understanding that these roads are now going to be paved from their existing condition, kind of narrow and some gravel sections and everything. We want to make sure that we're calming traffic appropriately, that people aren't going to be whizzing through here. So we are proposing some traffic calming elements, which includes raised intersections at 4 locations. Those are the intersections of Lovers and Orkawa, Lovers and Rugged Road, Orkawa and Skyline, and Monahanson and Webster Road. So we'll have a raised intersection there. That kind of looks like the picture in the middle there. I know that's an urban environment, but essentially the roadway comes up about 6 inches there to the sidewalk grade, and it just kind of slows people down and everything, provides that vertical deflection. Additionally, we are providing a median island just south of Nancy Ann Lane on Lovers Lane, and that looks something like the photo on the left side of the screen there. Again, just kind of providing a little horizontal deflection for vehicles and just kind of slowing folks down. So these have been placed throughout, in addition to that, with the turns in the roadway and everything to ensure that vehicles are traveling at safe speeds when these roads are paved. Go to the next slide.
Actually,
Oh,
Zach,
yeah,
just
if
real
you have
quick,
anything to
I
add.
just wanted
Yeah,
to
sure.
mention, I know that the question came up a couple times. The intersection of Orkawa and Monahans will be a four-way stop in all directions as well. So
Oh,
there'll be a bit
yes.
of a change from the current configuration at that intersection.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, right there.
Yes. Cool. Okay, so that's traffic calming. As I mentioned before, the stormwater elements here. So we'll be introducing a new closed drainage system. So there'll be new catch basins and pipes to take in all the water. The roadway will be graded as such to grade everything to a low point at a catch basin to take in that water. And then we'll have these subsurface infiltration systems throughout the project limits. What you see on the left there are some pictures of what these things look like. They'll all be subsurface, so these just get buried underground. But that's what's happening underground that kind of um, take in the water. We have water quality units that filter the water in and can be easily maintained by your public works and water departments and everything. So most of these are going to be located generally underneath the right of way. You can see all those locations there on Orkawa and Monahans Road. Those are all circled in blue there. And then there's one at Lovers near the intersection of Orkawa. So all of these are subsurface chambers there. The one exception of one that is off the road is that one in the middle of Lovers Lane there that you see circled just to the right of Rugged Road there. That one is located on an easement. That one is sized to take in the bulk of the storm water. It's all designed to take that in for Lover's Lane. So that's why you see less on Lover's Lane because there's a kind of a huge system there, while we have some smaller systems on Orkawa and Monahans to take in that storm water. Um, I also just wanted to mention soil management out here. And Emily is here as well from CDM Smith that's been helping us with the soil management plan. As you know, there is PFAS, known contaminated PFAS soil within our project limits on a section of Monahans Road that's shown there in blue on the screen that's adjacent to the airport. So we've been having close coordination with the airport and their team for the handling of the soils on the site. Any soils encountered within this area will be handled and disposed per DEP requirements. And we have specifications in the contract specific to handling these soils, and we'll be monitoring that very closely throughout the construction process. Um, just to give you an idea of what this is going to look like, here's Orkawa Avenue, just a shot. On the left is what it looks like today. And on the right is what the proposed condition will look like. So as you can see, we'll be paving the roadway. We'll be adding in those pavement markings. You'll have the 10-foot lanes. You'll have the asphalt berm on either side. and then you'll have that shared use path running adjacent. So this will look pretty much what Orkawa will look like, as well as Monahans and Lovers. I guess Lovers, if you're heading northbound, it would be on the left-hand side, and then that section again where it's adjacent to the state forest. The path will actually be within the state forest, so you'll just see a roadway there. Um, so just a few updates since our last public meeting, which was 364 days ago, or yes, thereabout. Our easements were recorded on January 29th, 2025. There are a number of easements associated with this project, whether they be temporary construction easements or easements for utility relocation. So all of those are recorded, as well as for the stormwater infiltration system that I mentioned before. The project was advertised back in March, and bids were open in April. And then it was voted to be approved at town meeting in May, and we awarded the project to CC Construction in June. Just to give you a sense of the project team, some of us are here right now. Drew, your Director of Public Works, is here. I'm Zach. I am the design engineer for this project, managing the design. We also have our construction administration staff, in addition to me, that'll be observing construction during the construction process. We'll have a full-time resident engineer out there making sure that the roadway is constructed to the specifications and that all the quantities are correct. And last but not least, we have our construction contractor, CC Construction, who will actually be out on the island doing that work. So next steps, probably what you're very interested in is when's this going to happen? What's going to happen? Where are you guys going to be? So we're going to go over a tentative project's timeline. I want to emphasize that it's tentative. We're still working out some details with the CC Construction, and obviously, all of the stuff is subject to change. But we wanted to make sure that we shared with you the general approach now, so you can understand where we're going to be, and then as things develop, obviously, we can keep you informed. So right out the gate, we're planning to start in September, right after Labor Day on September 2nd. So you'll see CC Construction. They'll be out there. Their general construction hours during the week will be Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. In general, their approach is going to proceed in this order, starting in September. And we'll get into a little bit more detail of the tentative schedule in the next couple slides. But overall, they're going to start with Lover's Lane. That'll be north of Orkawa. And then they'll move to the section south of Orkawa on Lovers. Then they'll move down Orkawa Avenue. And then finally over to Monahans and Airport Road. The project work, it'll be done in the winter months to the extent possible, because understanding that we don't want to have any work in the major summer months. So there won't be any major work planned in June, July, and August. So we'll kind of have a little break there, but we'll be kind of going from this September in through the winter to get as much as we can done before the spring, and then take a break, and then pick construction up again in the fall. Currently, with that schedule, we're estimating to have construction complete by the winter of 26, 27. So hopefully early in the winter there. There will be some we anticipate having some roadway closures and details. Those will be further communicated as the schedule develops. A lot of that is because they need to be in construction, a lot of these drainage systems, so it may be that the road is open to local access for residents and everything, but not through access, so you may need to get up to a certain point and go, so maybe there's a day where you need to exit your driveway to the left, and a day where you need to exit your driveway to the right. So that'll be communicated as the project develops. We don't have the exact dates and everything of those things, but we'll communicate that further as things develop. So tentative, as far as the construction phasing, what you're going to see out there, and this is high level of how they're going to approach it, but they're going to start right off with some site preparation and tree clearing. So you'll see them out there. There will be some, a lot of the tree clearing on Orkawa, Monahans area was already kind of done as part of the water project, so it's fairly minimal there, but there will be some more significant tree clearing on Lovers because the alignment of the roadway is not actually where the roadway exists today, although it is within the right-of-way. So you'll see a lot of that, and that'll be coming up in September. And then they'll get into some of the hydrant relocations. Utility companies will be out there doing some utility cord relocations, as I mentioned with the project. And then they'll dive into the drainage infrastructure installation. So that'll be those big stormwater chambers that we showed before. Um, from there, they'll get into that roadway reconstruction and realignment. They'll probably get into doing like getting the base course in and maybe up to a certain level of asphalt course so the roadway is passable. And then probably do final paving a little bit later. They'll also be doing the bike path construction, the paving, and the final landscaping. I should mention that the intent is, although there'll be detours and stuff during the daytime or some that type of thing, in general, the roadway will be buttoned up and passable at the end of every workday, so that you'll be able to travel through. Um, yeah, so next steps. We'll get a little bit more into the detailed timeline for construction. Again, this is all subject to change, and this is based on the schedule that we received, earlier today from CC Construction. So we're still reviewing it. There may be some minor changes to this, but in general, this is what you might expect within the duration of construction. So project-wide, again, starting in September and into October, you'll see that the project set up out there, them getting ready, doing tree protection, but also doing some site clearing and clearing out there. So that'll be project-wide through September and October. Um, from there, they're going to start again, as we mentioned, on that Lover's Lane section north of Orkawa. So starting in October, as the clearing is wrapping up, they'll get into hydrant relocations and some of the drainage infrastructure up there in the section that's highlighted on the screen. And then in November and January, they'll get into some of that roadway base construction there for the section north of Orkawa. Moving down, then it'll be the section south of Orkawa. So that's looking at January and February for that drainage infrastructure. And then as the winter turns into spring, we'll be looking at some of that roadway-based construction for that section of Lovers there, smaller section. Then we'll move over to Orkawa. Um, and again, that section will start with the hydrant relocations, um, installation of the drainage infrastructure. That's a little bit more extensive because there's several drainage infrastructure there. So that'll take in March and April. And then you'll see some of that roadway base construction in Orkawa in the early spring there. And then finally, so as I mentioned, no major work in the summer. So there'll be sort of a break there between, in the months of June, July, August, where there's not really much work going on because that's the high peak season, as you know, that we're in the midst of. But the following September, pick up again on Monahans with some of those hydrant relocations in September, and then going into the fall. Again, there's some fairly significant drainage infrastructure going along on Monahans in the roadway there, several systems. So that'll be in the fall, September, November, and then that roadway base construction there. So we're targeting a estimated project completion based on the schedule as it stands right now, assuming everything goes according to plan in the winter of 26, 27, hopefully early winter. Um, again, this is a very, very high level timeline. Not all the details are captured here of where they're going to be, but there will be additional, there's going to be utility work. The final paving, as I mentioned, needs to be coordinated in there within the paving season that's not in the middle of the winter. The landscaping and other construction activities may be going on throughout the project duration. So, the contractor, as the schedules develops, going to be providing us with at least a 2 week look ahead that we'll communicate to the town and that the town can communicate to you all, so that we know what's coming, where they're going to be, any planned detours or disruptions or anything. And we're also we had a pre-construction meeting yesterday with police, fire, and schools and other agencies to make sure that we're providing adequate emergency access for the school buses that'll be coming down the street starting in September, and all of that. So very coordinated. Obviously, it's construction. It's going to be a little disruptive, but we want to make sure that we're letting you know that this is coming. Answer any questions or concerns that you may have, and make sure that we're communicating with you everything that's going on.
Great. Sorry, thanks, Zach. And I was just going to add to that. Um, I personally was, I wouldn't say shocked, but I was a little surprised when we saw the schedule. The contractors a pretty aggressive schedule to get the bulk of the work done before winter, before next winter. And as you know, we have a lot of projects going on. Obviously, we can't pave in January, February when it's too cold. So I would not be shocked. It's construction. Things happen. We all see how projects inevitably are forced to be extended at times. But our anticipation is that the project will largely be substantially complete prior to winter of 26 into 27. And we're hopeful that if anything lingers into the spring of 2027, it would be some final paving, some landscaping, and punch list stuff. So that come summer of 2027, the project is 100% complete. And that was really our goal all along. So certainly very pleased to see that schedule from the contractor. Zach, I guess I'll just wrap it up for you. We do have a project webpage. I think it's going to be a really good resource for all of you to stay up to date with what's happening with the project. We'll be posting on it fairly regularly. In addition, the town has a road closures webpage and an email distribution. You can subscribe to that. And I highly recommend that you all subscribe to that, not only for this project, but for paving on Surfside and a road closure on Cliff Road. They're all in one place. The email goes out at the beginning of every week, and I think Erica, as needed, if there's changes midweek, a second email might go out just to keep everybody in the know. And the project will move fast at times. It'll move slow at times. You'll certainly see them coming down the road, making their way. But to go back to one thing Zach mentioned was kind of that phased approach. I like that they're kind of planning on doing the project in chunks, but you'll see them do drainage down the road, and then they'll kind of go back and start with the road-based construction. And I think one other thing, I'm actually just going to go back quite a ways to one slide that I think helps highlight one of the aspects of the project that I really wanted to touch on, which is what it's going to take to make this project happen. As you see here, if you look at the top, it's 40 feet wide is the right-of-way on Orkawa and Montahansett. We have a 22-foot wide roadway from edge of asphalt to edge of asphalt, a grass strip, and a 10-foot wide bike path. So we're taking up almost that entire 40-foot right-of-way in order to accommodate all of the permanent improvements in the right-of-way. A lot of the roads are really getting shifted over from their current alignment. And so you'll see some box widening. That effort, in talking with the contractor yesterday, is something that can largely be done while alternating traffic in the other lane, which was a relief. But as Zach mentioned, a lot of the drainage stuff, you're putting concrete structures and pipe in the road and some pretty deep excavations. And from a safety perspective for both the contractor and the traveling public, those types of activities will certainly require full road closures. This really is a very big project. I want to be very clear and frank up front. It's an $18.8 million project. We're literally moving roads over. There's going to be some headaches. It's not always going to be easy. Like any construction project, it is most definitely one step back before it's two steps forward. I think we're fortunate to have a contractor like CC Construction on board. We've worked with them time and time again on various town projects, including the water main that was recently extended through this area. So they're very familiar with these roads. And again, I know that I was pleasantly surprised when I saw their schedule and how aggressively they want to get at this project. And I think that actually kind of speaks to something we discussed last August, which was whether we would phase a project like this. And then I think last year I had mentioned if we wanted to bid and build Lovers and then bid and build Orkawa and then do the same for Montahansett, this would turn into a 6 or 8 year project. Obviously, the water main went through recently. You guys that live in the area have already dealt with, the headache of road closures and noise and stuff like that. And that'll continue. It's a big project. There's a lot of earthwork, so it will be dusty at times. The road may get bumpy when it rains. The contractor's on board to have staff on island 24/7, not the entire crew, but there will always be someone on site available. So after hours, weekends, et cetera, to respond to any issues, that come up, especially, potholes that pop up and things like that. And so, just wanted to put it out there. It will be disruptive. We're trying to avoid as best we can construction fatigue. And ultimately, I know, 12 or 18 months of construction isn't exactly ripping the Band-Aid off. But I think it'll happen a little bit quicker than most people expect, which is always a good thing. So I think with that, we will open it up to questions for anyone in the room or anyone online. Again, just come to the mic if you have a question. And if you're online, please raise your virtual hand.
Speaking for residents of one of the three roads, will there ever be a period during the construction when that road that you live on will be impassable or closed?
So during construction activities during the day, 7 to 4, there will certainly be times where what they're excavating in the road will require a full road closure, a blockage. They are prepared to pass emergency vehicles as needed. And obviously, there'll be a lot of coordination with police and fire on a daily basis, weekly basis, let them know where they're going to be working. We'll have police details on site. Of course, they have radios, and they'll know how to get from A to B. Again, some activities you'll be able to pass in the other travel lane as they're blocking one lane. But as Zach mentioned during the presentation, the contractor's committed to closing up the road or their excavation at the end of every workday. So when they leave at 4 o'clock, you're able to drive through the work zone that they were just working in.
Good time to take a vacation.
Perfect time to
But-
if you can take an 18-month vacation.
But Drew, you said it's going to be accessible to emergency vehicles, but it's also going to be accessible to residents. I mean, you're going to be able to come
Right.
in and out, but it could be limited.
Right. And
So you need to plan your travel accordingly.
yeah, no, it's a good point. So let's find, I think a good example is if they're working at the intersection of Rugged and Lovers. If you live on Lovers near Nancy Ann, you'll be able to access your property off of Old South, but you may not be able to get there from the boulevard. But if you're down by Orkawa and Lovers, again, to get in and out of your property when they're working in the intersection with Rugged, you're going to have to utilize Boulevard between 7 and 4 if what they're doing is requiring a full road closure. But so they'll always maintain access to your property when if you're on that street that they're working on, but there will be no through traffic. So I think Zach kind of touched on that. You will see them coming. There will be a day where you pull out of your driveway and you take a left because they're working to the right, and they'll proceed past you. And then at least for a couple of days or weeks after that, you'll have to get used to coming out of your driveway and taking a right instead. Hope that answers your question.
My name is Nancy Sherman. I live at 4 Skyline Drive, and I'm very excited about having bike paths along Orkawa and Lovers Lane. My question is about a stop sign at the intersection of Orkawa and Lovers. Maybe you addressed this, but it really needs a three-way stop there because the visibility right now is a little bit limited. If you're at Orkawa and you're looking to the right or the left, it's kind of hard to see vehicles coming, especially from the north. And they come very fast. They go through there very fast. So I think already there needs to be a three-way stop. But also, when there are bike paths along Orkawa, I think the bikers will have to cross Lovers Lane to get to the bike path on the other side. And there are already a lot of bikes there. And so for safety reasons, I think it would be great if folks had to stop on Lovers Lane to let bikes cross there.
One thing we didn't highlight in the presentation, but I'm glad you brought it up, is permanent sightline easements at intersections. So there are permanent easements if you live on the corner of Lovers and Orkawa. If you drive down Orkawa and you get to Lovers and you look right or you look left, there are going to be permanent easements that allow us to not only the beginning of the project, but the DPW long-term, maintain the vegetation so that you have a better line of sight a couple hundred feet down the road. And that same permanent sight line easements have been taken at the intersection of Skyline and Orkawa, thank you, and Webster and Monahans. Additionally, all three of those intersections are raised intersections. So I don't know if you saw the headlines recently. There's a speed bump, there's a speed hump, and what we're putting in is raised intersections. So ultimately, when you travel down the road, as Zach mentioned, you go up 6 inches, you'll travel 50 or 60 feet, and then it goes back down those 6 inches. And so we expect speeds at those intersections, coupled with the increased visibility in each direction, to really improve safety at those locations.
Hi, I live at 20 Monahans, and I've been a broken record at all these meetings. The intersection, not the intersection, but the curve at Monahans is so dangerous. Even if you improve the sight lines, it's still dangerous. And since you made these plans, there's now a camp at that curve. And as this lady mentioned, you need stop signs at Orkawa, you need stop sign at Monahans, and you need to straighten out that curve. While you're redoing the roads, it's just like crazy not to. I mean, there've been dogs killed on that curve, and someday it could be a child. And then what are people gonna say, that you didn't fix it? Just the sight lines is not gonna slow people down. I'm at 20 Monahans, I can barely get out of my driveway. People come so fast, and those raised intersections are not gonna slow them down enough. I know that's what everybody says, but it's just not gonna work. And everybody's like, oh, we've got 25-mile-an-hour signs. Doesn't work. If you wanna come sit at the end of my driveway, you just can't get out. And those raised intersections are not gonna slow them down enough. And it's not gonna work at Orkawa either.
I mean, I understand your concern. I appreciate that. The bike path on that curve will be on the inside of the radius. So again, you know, the benefit of having the bike path is getting pedestrians and bicyclists out of the road. But again, if we're clearing 20 or 25 feet back from the inside of that radius, the visibility across that curve is significantly improved. Unfortunately, I would just add that we have a right-of-way that we have to stay within. And it's easy to sit here and say we're going to take someone's entire front lawn or their property and try to move the roadway, but we do have guardrails, you know, that kind of limit what we can and can't do. That road is moving over a couple feet outwards, so that radius will be just, you know, so minimally, but it'll be a little bit softer than it currently is, because all of those improvements will be in the right-of-way. So again, we do expect that the safety at that location will be improved. There's a all four-way stop at Orkawa and Monahans, and then the raised intersection at Webster to help control traffic speeds. So, you know, we've committed to, Mike Burns is here, we do it all the time. We have traffic data collection devices that we can put out. And, you know, I know there was concern about speeding on Lovers as well. You know, we've committed to collecting data after the project is done to see how we're doing. And if there's something that needs to be reevaluated, we'll certainly do that. But right now, we're kind of doing everything that we can.
Hi, Sandy Schultz, 32 Lovers Lane. The one thing that I did not hear, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding, when we're talking about traffic slowdowns and bumps or humps or whatever you want to call them, am I to understand by the presentation we just had that there is not going to be one from Rugged Road to Nancy Ann Lane?
There is a traffic median island proposed in front of, I believe it's number 14, Lovers Lane.
Okay.
And so that makes vehicles that are traveling down Lovers have to deflect around the median island.
Okay, so
that
for
location.
from number 14 all the way down to, let's see, 38, 40, there's not going to be any type of speed hump, bump, platform, anything? Okay. That's an issue. It's a major issue. And I'm wondering if that can be changed.
Well, again, you know, we have no problem evaluating speeds after the road is built. I mean, Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that this is already a little unique. It is pretty rare for us to put traffic calming elements into a roadway before we know that there's a problem. And I know that people are convinced that it's going to be a raceway and there's going to be speed concerns. I don't know if you've seen the headlines, but we're dealing with an issue on Gold Star where you put a speed bump or a speed hump in, and it sounds good in theory, but they're really difficult in practice. They do come with noise. They don't lend themselves, or they don't aid us in any way with snow and ice response in the winter. They can impound stormwater. And so, I think at the end of the day, what we've done is found a good balance from an engineering perspective to control speeds. And, if we need to do more in the future, we certainly can evaluate that at that time. But I think we've struck a good balance as of right now,
Okay.
as
Well,
proposed.
in May, you were kind enough to come to my property, and we stood on Lover's Lane. And I remember you being actually very shocked by how bold the cars were with your lights on your vehicle and no one slowing down. And I just want to let you know, it has gotten worse this summer. People pass each other. I mean, cars pass just like they're on a highway on Lover's Lane. And they specifically, I mean, I can't speak for, 36, down towards the boulevard, but I can certainly speak to what's happening around the parking lot of the disc golf and, Dave Kim area. And it's really scary. I mean, I went out walking last night and actually had to jump into the bushes with a car that was just coming down the road. And so I can't imagine once this is paved, and even though we will have a lovely path in the forest that I could be walking on, it's going to depend on where the openings are to be able to cross and this, that, and the other thing. So speed really is an issue, and I can understand you wanting to wait until the road is paved to try to solve this problem, but we have, all of us in that area have been talking about this speed since the start of this project, and I would have anticipated that there would have been a little bit more care into designing this. You do have the parking lot of the disc golf in the state forest, and then what I didn't hear tonight is anything about Dave Kim. And is there going to be a stop sign at Dave Kim? Because there has never been, and cars just come right out of there, right onto Lover's Lane. And you wouldn't know this because it's actually been blocked for the better part of 15 years. So, and unpassable. And actually this weekend, my husband went into that puddle to pull out some trash. And because it hasn't been raining, the stench is terrible. The mosquitoes are terrible. And so is this really part of it? Because it was not suggested tonight that this was part of the drainage and the issue that's going to be taken care of. That it's not healthy. And all summer, we have been dealing with kids that have been playing in there, throwing rocks and sandbags and, mucking through. And it's just enough. It's been over 20 years, and I realize that we're really, really close. You're going to start in September 2nd, yay. But on the other side of it, it's can we please try to figure out a way to solve these problems? Because I think it's just going to continue, and getting bikers and walkers off the road is not going to make it any easier for cars getting in and out of their driveways and all this other stuff that's going to happen on the road once it's paved. And I do support it being paved. I mean, I understand that Nantucket has changed, that, we need to move forward, but we also need to stay safe. And, that's, I guess, all I have, is if somehow they can think about maybe putting in some sort of speed or stop signs in those areas at Dave Kim, and maybe somewhere between the state forest and Rugged.
Okay. I'll try to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. Drainage improvements on Dave Kim are absolutely included in the project. That's one of the things I know I'm most excited about. I mentioned it at town meeting, and thanks again for standing up in support of the project at town meeting.
Yeah, that was pretty scary, wasn't it?
What's that?
That was pretty scary.
It's not fun. But I believe that a stop sign will be installed at the end of Dave Kim. There won't be stop signs on Lovers at Dave Kim, but there will be coming out of Dave Kim. I think, getting people out of the roadway obviously does lend itself to safer roadway conditions. Additionally, part of the design was a discussion of how wide the lane should be. So 2 10-foot travel lanes is narrower than what you see on a lot of roads out here. Not maybe by much, but enough that it does influence people's operation of their vehicle. I've had a number of people ask, basically, is it going to look like the boulevard? It won't be as open and wide as the boulevard. And it's those types of things that just visually can influence people's behavior behind the wheel. And like I said, we'll continue to evaluate, and if we need to do more, we can certainly always do more. We
Will
don't
there
want to.
will there be any crosswalks, maybe at the Dave Kim area? I mean, people are going to be coming down from, that area, utilizing the road to go into the forest. There's a beautiful path that I don't know is, there now that, people access the forest from that section. They also, down towards Nancy Ann, they access the forest there. Will there be any crosswalk situations?
Yeah, we will be providing access to the bike path other than, between Old South and Rugged Road. They were not originally incorporated when we permitted the project through DCR and got a construction access permit, and we didn't want it to hold up our timeline because what inevitably will happen sometimes is by the time the project gets delayed, you miss an entire construction season, and we could be an entire year behind. So we're working on incorporating some of those elements at this time, and they're not major changes to the project, but we didn't want to derail the 2.5-mile project for some minor modifications to the design of the permit. So those will be incorporated. We don't want people that live near, Nancy Ann, for example, to feel like they need to go on the road shoulder all the way down to Rugged or Old South to get on the bike path. So we will be incorporating those.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laszlo Von Lazar, 34 Lovers Lane. We talked last time. One comment just about what was said, and then I'll get to my two questions. In the last meeting, you brought up the same point. There's no data with respect to speed, so we don't know how many slowing devices to put in. The request from us was, well, why don't you do the survey now, even though it's a dirt road, and you have a data point to determine, well, maybe we can determine what the right number of is. That wasn't in the meeting notes, and obviously, I don't think that all the points that were just raised were listened to. That's disappointing from my perspective. So what will happen is we'll have to ask for a data point to be collected once it's paved, and then, as opposed to doing it the most effective way, we're going to do it a more impactful way for all of us. I feel ignored, I think I could say, honestly, from that perspective. Couple of specific questions. The flagging has been put up on Lovers Lane. Is it our requirement before September to move everything out that is ours onto our property before September? Do we have to do that?
No, so the pink flagging that's out is the limit of clearing for the roadway and bike path improvements. If you see pink flagging and it's on a tree, that tree will remain. It's everything that's outside of that. We have line items for stone walls and light posts, and I think
Driveway
there's some
aprons.
buoys out there and driveway aprons, like cobblestone aprons, things like that. Those are all included as unit prices or in the bid documents. So, but I would say if
Do they
there's,
move it,
they
or
will,
do they remove it? That's the question.
they will move it, stockpile it, and replace it. If there's something that you're concerned about or particular about, you're more than welcome to take it upon yourself, or have your caretaker, landscaper, whoever, someone you trust, do that stuff in lieu of the contractor doing it. Our goal is to do this without putting the burden on the residents to move your stuff out of the way. Again, we have the
So I've placed
provisions
large
in the
boulders.
contract.
Do I have to move
Can
them?
you move your mic
Quick.
up a little bit?
I'm sorry. So as an example, I placed boulders 30 years ago, right there. So should I move it? Should I go get a small excavator and move it? Or will they move it just 4 feet back or 5 feet back?
Like I said, we have provisions in the contract for the contractor to remove those boulders and replace them in the future. If you'd rather do it, you're more than welcome to.
So what's the process that we as the landowners are supposed to follow? Do we take a picture of everything we have and say, we expect this exact thing back 4 feet or wherever the yellow flagging is? What's the way that we should?
Well, and we usually stockpile on your property. It doesn't get taken away, right? If somebody has a Belgian block driveway, I mean, this is how CC did it with the water main project. They stacked everything on site. and then put it back. They didn't take it away, so.
I think as long as there's room there and it's not going to disturb other landscaping or something, then, you know, and I'm sure at times the resident engineer and the superintendent or foreman from the job will knock on your door and ask you some questions.
Trees, and what about all the trees we planted, all that?
Those are gone.
Right.
If
they're
they're
outside
in
of
the
pink-
right of way,
If they're
they're
outside of
gone.
the pink flagging, they'll be cleared, yeah.
Okay.
Again, if there's a boulder that you have like your house number on and you think that they're going to destroy, you're more than welcome to move it on your own and then, you know, put it back when the project is done. But our intent, again, was to make it so you didn't really have to lift a finger.
Okay, and then I think most importantly for me, the SWPPP, where is it? And how do I ensure the contractor's performance against it? What's my contact information when they're in violation of it and when they're not utilizing BMPs?
Can you elaborate on what you're talking about? Because I'm sure a lot of
So,
people in here
yeah,
don't
so
know that
every-
acronym.
Every contractor is required to perform a stormwater and pollution prevention plan. That plan is the first thing you do as a contractor. And if you're in violation of it, you basically have to stop. And we, as anybody, can say someone is in violation of an SWPPP. It's the basis for the construction work to start. And there's also what's called best management practices, which they have to implement. And if they don't implement it, and it will impact us with the process of runoff, silt moving, dirt in the air, all of those things are part of that. And they're required to publicly make it available to us. And it should be done already as the schedule. So that's what I'm talking about.
I don't believe that they've been uploaded yet, but we will be putting the plans and contract documents on the project webpage for everyone to have access to.
And then our contact information for when they're in violation of it.
If they're in violation,
Yeah.
not when.
I've seen every site here.
You're saying who do you contact?
Yeah.
So that'd be,
Is it I mean, in the past, I've had to contact Massachusetts. Is there a local contact for this work?
It would be our project manager.
right.
I mean, everything should go through the project manager.
Not for an SWPPP. Okay, well,
Well, I mean, I guess you can reach out to Natural Resources Conservation Commission. You can take it to the
and
state if that's.
is there a local number here that we can utilize for this work?
I can certainly try to
We
find
can-
that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Joanne Johnson, 40 Lovers Lane. With regards to data about speed on Lovers Lane, not to sound like a broken record, but I want to say that for the record, in the 364 days since the last time we were here, there have been 3 significant accidents on the part of Lovers Lane, just between Rugged Road and Old South Road. One of them was a car at speed hitting a tree and bursting into flames. One of them took out one of our brand-new fire hydrants completely, and one of them totaled the front of our car in front of my house. So I think those are data points that the speed is excessive on that street. And I understand that you're going to put in intersection raising parts there, and I'm willing to try it, but prepare yourself, because I don't think it's going to be enough. And the other thing that I would like to point out is that once you pave this road, it becomes a major thoroughfare. And I question what will happen to the traffic on Rugged Road, which is already pretty significant this summer because of the traffic that backs up on Old South Road so badly. There's only room for one-way traffic at a time, so people just kind of have to wait. And I don't know if the town is going to take any responsibility for what will probably be significantly more traffic on that road once this artery becomes a major thoroughfare. And then finally, I think that the other roads, Dave Kim and Greg Lynn and those roads there, will also become pretty significant intersections. And it doesn't look like it now. They're all dirt roads and big ponds, and there's hardly any traffic going up and down there compared to Old South Road. But once you make this a road that is going to be easily traveled at speed, those intersections are going to look a lot different. And just I'm really concerned about what the overall effect is going to be if we aren't really keeping a close eye on the traffic and the speed. I mean, I'm far more worried about that now than I am about the drainage, which I think we have under control, but the speed is bad. And I walk that road every single day. They come down so fast. And one of the disadvantages of not having rain, one of many disadvantages of not having rain, is that the road is actually in pretty good shape and has stayed that way all summer. And I say that's a disadvantage because now the cars are just going so fast. You know, it's bad. It's really bad. So I leave that with you, but don't forget about the accidents. That was a tiny little stretch of land. It's only half a mile, and there's significant accidents just in 1 year. Thank you.
I just want to know, I hear everybody's concerns about speeding and traffic and accidents. Unfortunately, this area, I mean, it isn't a one-off, it's everywhere. We're not going to put a speed table on Center Street because a Jeep flipped over and hit a building there. A car flipped on Orange Street. People are just driving too fast in general on Nantucket, and I'm not excusing that in any way, and I'm not saying that that's why we're not potentially going to do extra on this roadway, but it is an island-wide problem, not a problem in just this area. So I just wanted to remind everybody that. And regarding the 90-degree corner on Orcoa, I mean on Monahans, I live in that area. We can't straighten it out. There's no way to do that. The way that the roadway was laid out, there is private property there. And we can't just cut a road across somebody's property when there's a house and a yard and people have property rights. And at this point in the game, we're ready to put a shovel in the ground on September 2nd. And I get that people might feel ignored, but we're also constrained by certain aspects of the current layout and people's properties. So just a reminder of that as well.
And I would just add to that, Joanne, to answer or respond to some of the stuff you brought up. Again, we do hear you, and I do think it is a little bit unique to add traffic calming elements prior to constructing or reconstructing these roadways. I think we found a good balance, and in addition to the noise and snow and ice and stormwater and other things, you know, every speed bump, hump, or table comes with signs that need to be MUTCD, the manual and uniform traffic control devices, compliant. They're bright, they're yellow. It becomes kind of an urban setting if you have too many of them. And we did hear from residents, you know, as we were finalizing the design that, you know, rugged
Lovers.
specifically, but lovers in these areas are nice rural residential areas, and we wanted to kind of keep it as such.
And that was one of the reasons why we kept the roads a little narrower too. I mean,
Right.
even the select board weighed in on that and said that they wanted to keep a more rural characteristic to the roadway.
And I would just add too, I think the reality is that Lovers, Monahans, and Orcoa were not intended to take the vehicle, or it was many years ago wasn't expected to take the volume of traffic that it sees today, but that's just the reality of it. And we are aware of the accidents that are on Lovers, and we certainly hope that by improving drainage, improving line of sight, and improving the roadway conditions, you might see an uptick in traffic and a slight uptick in speed, but see a decrease in motor vehicle accidents, collisions, and people losing control, God forbid, any injuries. And so that's the intent, you know, and it's certainly a challenge to balance these things. But I think that we've done a really good job, but that's certainly not to say that as Richmond continues to develop and anything else on Nantucket changes, that these roads aren't necessarily, you know, set in stone for the next 100 years. We can make changes in the future as needed. But I think right now what we're proposing it does take into consideration all of those different concerns, which sometimes compete with one another.
So what is the aversion to putting in, I'm sorry. I'm so
Sorry, he had been waiting.
I'm sorry.
No problem. David Fowler, 52 Lovers Lane. I mean, everyone here seems to have said it already, but the speed is going to be a massive issue. I mean, it's already an issue. I have a child that's 2 and 4, another one on the way, and I can just see them trying to cross the street into the bike path to go right across the way and having a huge catastrophe there. And I just don't think, I sat here a year ago and echoed the same thing. Everyone else seemed to say it. And there's just no reaction at all to the fear of the speed. And the difference with Center is that that's already built, right? I mean, that's already a constructed road. You have an opportunity here to urban plan around what everyone knows is an issue on this island. And it's just no one's listening to any of the residents that are around there that live this day in, day out. I don't understand how that's not being comprehended here. I mean, it's been 365 days since the last meeting and no changes. So I'm just confused as to how we've ended up with no additional traffic calming elements between Rugged and Orkawa, or, I mean, as they were saying, from Rugged basically until Old South too. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Because this is an opportunity here for an urban planning progress to be made on speeding, and we're not taking that opportunity. Further question in addition to that soliloquy are there the crosswalks that you're talking about? Are there any additional crosswalks that you're thinking about between Rugged and Orkawa?
Between Rugged and Orkawa, no, I don't believe so. We typically try to stay away from mid-block crosswalks. They're most safely located at intersecting streets rather than kind of haphazardly placed along roadways. If there are popular locations where people cross or there's a need, again, that's something we can entertain, but we certainly can't put a crosswalk at everyone's driveway because they plan to cross the road. So, if Lovers had more intersections, I think it'd be a little easier to implement more crosswalks in appropriate locations. And that's the other thing, I think from a traffic calming perspective, we've heard it time and time again. I have been with the town for 2 years. This project started almost a decade ago. I would imagine at some point there was no traffic calming, and then there were some traffic calming elements. And I know that since I've been at the DPW, we have added some traffic calming elements. And at the end of the day, we have engineers, consultants that work on this design in conjunction with us and the community's wants and needs. And from a engineering standpoint, we feel like we found a good balance. And
What was added between this time last year and
the intersection, the raised intersections on Orkawa at Skyline and intersection of Monahans and Webster, for example, those have been added since I've been part of the project.
Yeah, as I think that was added this time last year, but nothing after the commentary provided last year, from what I can see. Because you can, from the raised intersection at Rugged and Lovers to the raised intersection of Orkawa and Lovers, you can get up to 60. And so I just don't think that and also it's a straightaway. It's not like there's any curve in the road there at all, or can be just given the right of ways. But because it's a straightaway, you're going to get people flying, and it's going to be going right past our place and others. And I just think it's really unfortunate we're not taking the opportunity.
I would say. I mean, you could get to 60. We don't anticipate people will get to 60, and there's always an enforcement component to this as well. We meet regularly as a traffic safety staff work group with the police chief and fire chief, and we talk about these types of things. And that has led to increased enforcement in some areas. I don't know if it looks like you wanted to say something about that topic, Mike.
Yeah, just to say this is a balancing act, and I think we're all saying let's just get this started and see what needs to be improved as we get down the road a little bit, because we do want to preserve the country character of this area. I mean, this is in the country, so we want to preserve that. And I think Drew's made that very, very clear that we do not want an urban environment along these corridors, and it sounds like you're asking us to do that. And we're trying to see, let's see if this works, see if the people who live in the neighborhood, your neighbors, drive safely on that corridor, and if it needs to be corrected down the future. I mean, last month, we just met with the residents in Sconset about their speeding concerns and how the speeding is, and they get very proactive and have campaigns about, let's just all as a group, all collectively agree that this is a cultural problem, and let's make it cool and safe to drive at appropriate speeds. And maybe that's something that's an opportunity for this area, is to have a little bit of neighborhood coordination and make it culturally unacceptable, not normalize speeding.
I'm not worried about the neighbors. The neighbors that aren't the ones that are the culprits.
Yeah, so I think there's opportunities, not with just engineering, but just talking with each other, and then take stock of your own habits. Because like, this is an island-wide problem. This isn't strangers doing this. This is the community. It's an issue. And we have counters out. We know exactly where the really bad problems are. We hope this doesn't happen along this corridor, but there's a lot happening along these corridors that don't happen on other roads that are still very much a problem. And balancing the character, it's a hard thing to do. Because once the speed humps and all the signage goes in, it's kind of hard to rip all that out, because it looks gross and it's really not a problem. And why'd you do this in the first place and waste all that money? Let's just take nice, responsible steps to addressing the problems. And hopefully everybody's happy this time next year. And it's like, yeah, is there an outlier or two? Yeah, there's always going to be the person who speeds a little bit too much. But is it, maybe let's take stock and see how big the problem is and how big of a solution we need to come in after that.
I'm a layperson, so I don't understand why these tables are better than stop signs. We're all begging you for stop signs. And it seems like it'd be much less expensive to just put in a stop sign and much safer.
So the state actually mandates that stop signs aren't supposed to be used for a traffic calming device in the MUT, that they're not. Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay,
Or
can
that's
they
what I
be-
meant to say.
Can they be used
So-
to prevent accidents?
Sorry?
Can they be used to prevent accidents?
I can chime in a little bit. Stop signs,
Thank you.
what you're alluding to, Erica, is need to be a warrant for the proper control of an intersection. So that's based on a number of factors, whether it's traffic volumes, visibility, speeds, all of those factors and everything. So we've evaluated this corridor and everything. Like Drew said, we're adding that all-way stop at Monahanset and Orkawa and everything. But stop signs are used for control of intersections to have safe control. They're not a traffic calming device. So it wouldn't be an appropriate traffic calming, for example, to put just stop signs not at an intersection or at intersections where they're not warranted, because they don't provide an effective form of traffic calming. They often are, they would be seen as not needed, or people would ignore them, or that type of thing. So the appropriate forms of traffic calming are the things that we're looking at installing here that we've discussed with the raised intersection. So when you have that change in grade, it alerts folks that there's an intersection there. They need to slow down. It's similar to the speed hump and everything. It's also that horizontal deflection that you see with the median island there. It's all these kind of visual cues that slow people down. Additionally, the 10-foot lanes effectively are a traffic calming along these corridors. That's a very narrow lane. That's about the minimum that you want to go. And the fact that there will be likely additional traffic coming through here is actually somewhat of your friend here with these narrow lanes as a traffic calming thing, because if you have two oncoming vehicles approaching each other in 10-foot lanes, you're going to need to proceed with caution. You're not going to want to pass someone at 60 miles an hour on a 10-foot lane. So all of these things are kind of balanced there. So the reason that we're not doing the stop signs, to get to the crux of your question, is because they aren't warranted, and they're not an effective form of traffic calming.
Hi, Sandy Schultz again, 32 Lovers Lane. Early on, and maybe even longer than a year ago, when we were here getting information, one of our neighbors brought up the fact that the state forest is there, and would there be any consideration to Lovers Lane as being a forest road or developed as a forest road? And the only reason why I'm thinking about this right now is as the gentleman from 52 Lovers Lane was speaking, It just occurred to me how many deer are on the road just because there is the state forest across the street. I mean, you can get up, don't laugh. Okay. What's that? 8% of crashes on the island because of deer. Well, I realize there are a lot. I do. But I mean, Lover's Lane is, I mean, there's herds on Lover's Lane. And, you know, right now we have 2 new houses being built in Lover's Lane at 38 and 36 Lover's Lane, which has disrupted a lot of their land. And so, I don't know, it's just constantly, all hours of the day, deer are crossing that street. So I realize maybe it's a silly thing, but on the other side of it, it's a concern. Will there be any signage, anything on that road other than what you are proposing, or is that something that we look at down the road? Because you know what, a Jeep full of college kids, with a case of beer in the back that's playing really loud music and on their phones, they're not really thinking about what's in front of them. And, as much as we, talk about this, as far as I know, Lover's Lane is always going to go to the beaches. It's always going to Nova Deer and Surfside. And, it is that cut through. And so anyway, I just thought I would bring that up since we were talking about traffic and reasons why the road can be dangerous. So thank you.
Good evening, Maureen Coleman at 10 Lover's Lane. And I spoke to Sonara Reed, she's at 18, and she just wanted to, again, voice her opinion. She was not able to be here tonight, that she's very opposed to this and she would like more traffic calming devices. She's very concerned about the speeds, and myself being at 10, it's like the starting gate or the starting block of the speed, because that's where the pavement ends and the vehicles just fly off from that point. So I'm happy to see that there's going to be a device at 16. Also, I wanted to point out that since this project is moving forward, a new facility has popped up on Lover's Lane, the gym, Wordham, and there's a significant amount of kids on bikes and walking. And obviously right now, Nancy Ann Lane is used as a cut through from Richmond and Cape Cod Express. And even though there is a stop sign there, it's not really used too frequently. So it's a very, very busy intersection there, and getting busier as the days goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you bring up a good point, Maureen. And I know we talked about it very briefly earlier today. It is kind of a dynamic area between Richmond and the developments or the properties that are being developed in that general area. And that's why I say, I don't want us to come off as sounding like we'll kick the can down the road, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it type of stuff. But we can really only make decisions and engineering decisions and put plans together based on the information that we have. As things evolve, if intersections like Nancy Ann and Lovers or Dave Kim, which has no traffic right now because it's a lake, if they become really heavily traveled and three-way stop is warranted or something, those are things that will naturally evolve over time. But as of right now, all we can really do is make the best decision possible based on the information that we have. And, we work pretty tirelessly, collecting new data and staying kind of keeping up to speed with all that's happening on Nantucket around us at all times, which is kind of how, this whole area and the traffic through it and the condition of the roads got to where they're at, because the island grew faster than these roads did. And so, I think we're headed towards a really successful project, but I guarantee the plans that we put out to bid are not going to be exactly the what's constructed by the time it's all said and done. Things are inevitably going to change in that area where there's some commercial properties up near Old South, for example. I think we may need to entertain whether we provide on-street parking or something. We talked about I don't know who here might have mailboxes on Lovers out at Old South. I just think that's a really dangerous location, so we talked about trying to relocate those and give them a home. It's construction where things are going to evolve between now and the day the contractor picks up and moves out of here. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And I just want to add, with every suggestion that has been made, we are not saying no. We're saying let's go with the build that's been designed by the professional engineers, and let's see how it works out. That doesn't mean that we can't add an additional crosswalk. That doesn't mean that we can't add an additional speed table. But at some point, we have to put some trust in the professionals that do this for a living and get this constructed, because another delay, and who knows if this can even move forward. And I think that is something that we would all love to see. Personally, I live on Skyline Drive. I can't wait till my kids and myself have a safe route to be able to get on a bike path and get out to Old South Road or get out to the boulevard, because right now, it's like taking your life in your own hands by going out into one of those roads. So I know that people see some negatives, but there's also a lot of positives with this project. And I do hope that you see that. It's going to really benefit the community in a huge, huge way. I remember before the town took those roads, what deplorable shape they were in. And since the town did take them and improvements were made, yes, the traffic has increased. Traffic has increased all over the island. The amount of development that has been happening on this island is just insane. I mean, years ago, 52 was just an undeveloped lot. Most people's houses were just undeveloped lots. We want to be here. We're creating the traffic. And that's something we all have to live with if we all want to stay here. But I think this is a really positive project, and I just hope that we can see it succeed. I'm excited that it's happening on September 2nd. And again, improvements can be made if we find that there are issues. Thank you.
Could you clarify the parking thing? My brain was checked out for a minute. Are we parking on the side like Amelia, or is there no parking on Lover's Lane?
No parking on any of these roads within the project limits. Up near like the liquor store, there's some parking on the shoulder opposite those businesses. But with more businesses moving into the area, it's becoming an issue. I'm not saying we're changing anything. What I'm saying is, as the world changes around us, we always kind of need to reevaluate what we're planning, designing, constructing. And so I think I was using it as an example of a dynamic area that, again, as it evolves, we may need to reconsider what we're doing so that we don't not react and then unsafe situations present themselves, like I don't know, double parking or people parking where then you can't see pulling out of an intersection, et cetera, et cetera. So
as annoying as I find driving up Amelia, it does calm the traffic. You don't go very fast. So
it's true. Yeah.
There's a good point to it.
A gift and a curse, I suppose. Erica, are there any questions online?
No, I don't have it. Suzanne Daub had her hand raised earlier, but she put it down.
Any other questions, comments? All right. I guess that'll do it for this evening. Thanks again for coming. Again, the project webpage, I think, is going to be a really good resource for all of you throughout construction, as well as the road closures page. If any of your neighbors or anybody that you know is interested in the project couldn't make it tonight, this is being recorded. We'll put this on the project webpage. It'll also be on YouTube in case you want something to watch Friday night.
Yeah. And I will say, when we had our pre-construction meeting yesterday and we talked about, we do weekly updates. We get them from the contractor. We get 3 week ahead, but we focus on the 1 week, the following week. And we're going to try to be very specific in terms of where the construction area is going to be. So again, please sign up for those emails, because it'll say, between 52, and I'm just saying that because you're on my mind, but between 52 Lovers Lane and Orcoa is going to be the construction area this week. And so you'll know that you're going to need to, go out to Old South, or you're going to have to go out through the boulevard. And so we really try hard to get all that information out as best as possible.
And then lastly, we mentioned GPI is doing the construction administration and oversight for the project. So Roger from GPI will be on site all day, every day, from start to finish for this project. I'm sure you all get to know him. I also encourage you to get to know the guys from CC Construction that are doing the work. It's a great way to get information firsthand. And, they're approachable. It always helps when you say, this online says it's going to be about a week until you're past my house, but what do you really think? Or can I get in? Can I get out? And they'll be honest with you. You might be contacted the day before and they're going to say, I'm really sorry, but 7 a.m. tomorrow wouldn't be right in front of your driveway. So you might need to put your car in your neighbor's driveway or out on the street the night before so that you can get out. There's going to be those types of growing pains. That comes with any construction project, and effective communication on our end is critical to that success, but also, the more engaged you guys can be throughout the process, the better off you'll be. So.
And just please communicate with us. If you're experiencing any issues, reach out and let us know. Most of you know how to get a hold of me. Drew's at the DPW. And we will try to get anything addressed as best as we can. We want this to be, like I said, a successful project. We all, myself included, have to live within the project area. So just, please don't let it fester. If something comes up and it's a problem for you, let us know.
And I would just say, I work in Mattocket, live on Hooper Farm, so this isn't exactly on my way home, but I'm sure you will see me out there plenty, early mornings or in the evening, or obviously during the actual construction activities during the day. So, to Erica's point, we're always available, and we'll do whatever we can to make this a successful project and as least impactful on all of you as possible.
So I don't think you have any control over this, but maybe you have some knowledge. Will we be able to relocate the mailboxes off of that dangerous corner and put them in front of our house when this project is done?
That might be a question for the post office, but that's something that we can look into.
Yeah, I mentioned to Maureen about noon today. I was saying that back when I first came on board with the DPW and got involved with this project, I forget who or how or when, but it was kind of brought to my attention that those mailboxes were there. They're really in a poor location. I don't know if that's because the road is gravel. I know it's been public for a long, long time, but.
I don't think I've ever even noticed a mailbox.
It's
over
a
there
string of
in
like
all these
50.
Well, you'll notice it when somebody stops right in the middle of the road to check their mail and you come around the corner and they're right there.
If you turn right off of Old South onto Lovers,
Yeah.
they're right there. And
I've just
there's
never
a bank of
noticed
them. Yeah. And so again, I actually said to Maureen, I have no problem contacting the postmaster and seeing what we can do to improve that. At a minimum, move them to a safer location.
Well, and also now that the road is going to be paved, one of the reasons why some mail trucks don't go down certain roads is because they're awful and they're in deplorable shape. So
If they can put it in your house.
they may now be open to having your mailboxes right at your driveways. And that would slow traffic down too, having the mail, getting to, stopping every 10 feet to deliver.
As long as they do 2 deliveries a day. You got to do 2 rounds, morning and afternoon rush hours.
Sorry, I'm not trying to make light of it, but.
All right, I think that's it for the evening. Thanks again for coming. Looking
Yeah,
forward to a
thank
really
you all.
successful project. Yeah,
Appreciate y'all coming out today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.